If I look at my stats, I'm probably between, say, 60 and 70% somewhere. It's pretty significant when, I've gone from 500 to, I don't know, 7,000 or $8,000. So, but once I started understanding it, and so once you start recognizing the small nuances, it's gone really well.
How long you've been in our community now, but it's been kind of a journey that I've noticed. I think you were in Hawaii when you first started.
I was. And then we went to Washington first. And, I traded full time in Washington because we really didn't want to settle down in Washington for very long. But my kids had never seen snow. So
Spokane?
Yeah, we stayed in Spokane I started in Hawaii with you, and then Spokane, and then here. And, it was happenstance, because I had checked out a bunch of different people on what they teach and how they teach. And I was searching, I think Google or something, or YouTube maybe, and I ran across the video of yours. And it was explaining basic ideas of waves and, in your free videos you have. And I thought, well, that sounds pretty logical. And then I remember like the first week maybe or second week, you told everybody that you can't expect it to be a get-rich-quick scheme, right? And I really got tired of some of these people from like MTI and that saying, oh, you can make $10,000 in a day, and you only need $1,000 in your account, and you can do that tomorrow. But
really,
they never really show you how to do that. And they each have their different thing that they teach. Market Traders tries to teach Fibonacci. And so they teach you waves move and correct. And then their idea is that at the Fibonacci levels, 38 or whatever, and 50% is when you're supposed to get in and set a stop loss so many pips above that point, and then you'll be right 60% of the time or whatever it is. And it just wasn't, it didn't make any sense to me, right? It was like, well, how do you know it's going to turn? And then you get in a trade at 32% and it goes up to 50% and it knocks you out, and then you get frustrated, and this happens over and over again. So, and it just wasn't kosher. And when they started telling me, you can make all this money and you don't need any experience, I've learned a few things in my days, and that is, be weary of those who say something too good to be true, kind of thing. And
yeah.
when you said, it's a lifelong thing, it's going to take time to learn, right? You go to college for 4 years, you pay tens of thousands of dollars to learn. You really expect you're going to start trading today and make money today? I mean, I'm sure they're prodigies, but not everybody.
Yeah, it sounds like you had some good education and training. I mean, you've done a number of different things and was working with robots and all kinds of stuff before, right?
Yeah, in fact, I've got a whole CD full of robots. And I found some of them that break even, given certain market conditions. The one caveat there is I found robots are built for specific market conditions. So if it's trending, the robots do very, very good. But if it's correcting, they don't do very good. And so after losing, I don't know, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 or something, I finally gave up on the robots. But, I also had them in a separate account while I was trying to learn, because I wanted to see if it would be a viable way of earning money. And so, it's trending. There's certain robots you can get and it'll do just great. But overall, you're not going to learn the market. So.
Yeah. Part of what I was wondering about, because you were in the Army before?
I was in the Army, yeah.
Were you in Iraq?
No. So I went in 93. I got out in 98, the last part of 98, early 99, somewhere in there. And when I got out, it was kind of a forced thing. I didn't want to get out, but I had been injured overseas, and I spent 3 years in the Army in hospitals. So they were really trying to push my paperwork to get me out. It didn't go well. I enjoyed my time there, but when you get too close to explosives, it has a devastating effect on your body. And so got out, and the VA took care of my last 2 surgeries. It was only supposed to be 1. It ended up being 2. And then after that, I did a reval on my percentage and moved to Hawaii.
Where were you stationed before?
My last duty station was in Oklahoma, Fort Sill, Oklahoma. But my regular duty station was Georgia.
How did you get injured in the Army?
So in 95, we were doing road clearing and things like that in Bosnia. And got too close when a landmine went off. We got one of my battle buddy got out of the truck to move something that was in the road and stepped on a landmine, and it did him in, and it tore through parts of my body because the Humvees they're not built to withstand blast pressure back then. That was kind of what started me down the road of looking for some way of making income at home, because after I got out of the Army, I went back into construction. I've been in construction nearly my whole life. And,
I noticed that you're like a developer, builder of custom homes or something like that.
Yeah, so right now I'm actually working in a cabinet shop. I'm the shop superintendent. And so it kind of gives me the flexibility I need so I can still do my morning stuff. And I enjoy it. And one day I'll get to the point where I don't want to do this and I'll work full time from home again, like I did in Spokane. But for right now, I'm happy with this.
Along the way, here's what my experience was: is I keep hearing, that you're going from Hawaii to Spokane, then from Spokane down to Houston or Waco or something in order to get.
We were in Houston last year. Yep.
Surgery and trying to get treatment for your injury, and then at the same time you're learning to trade and you're developing your skill. And at one point I was thinking, man, you just about got this down, and then you had to have surgery. I think it took you out of the picture for a while.
Yeah, it did. And that's the downside, is back surgeries are complicated.
But after that last surgery, I think you were maybe in Dallas or something.
Yeah, Dallas, yeah.
You have gradually recovered from that, and since then you're able to trade also. So how's that now going? You were saying that your percentage is starting to get pretty accurate.
Yeah, it takes time. I definitely can say that. It took me, I think, let's see, we were in Hawaii 4 years ago. So we were in 4 years ago. So, I've been on the program now about 4 years, and I would say that it took me probably 2.5 or 3 years before I was actually showing myself, being neutral or making a slight profit. So, but once I started understanding it, and so once you start recognizing the small nuances, it's gone really well. Yeah, if I look at my stats, I'm probably between, say, 60 and 70% somewhere. On really good weeks, I can probably get up around 70%, but as an average, I'm probably closer to 60%, maybe 65%. But it's enough
really good, especially if your losses are much smaller than your wins.
And that's just it. My account grows a little bit each week, so I'm showing progress. It just, it takes time. So
is it starting to get to the point where you could live off of off of your account?
Not quite, because when I went in for surgery in Dallas, we had to pretty much liquidate just about every piece of capital we had, because I didn't work for 4 months. So we paid all of our bills and paid all the medical stuff. And so it cost some money. So my account got really small then. So, but it is growing. And I would say probably at the rate I'm going, maybe the end of this year, it would probably be viable if I wanted to try and just do that.
And it's growing every week, you said, by...
Yeah, on a weekly basis, maybe 30, 40%, something like that. It's not a real big account. There's only a few $1,000s in there right now. But, before I went into surgery, we took everything out, took it down to $500 because we needed the money. So I started back up again with $500. So, it's pretty significant when, I've gone from 500 to, I don't know, $7,000 or $8,000.
Oh yeah, that is excellent. And I'd love to see that done, because it just shows, it doesn't matter how much you're starting with, if you're just willing to keep working, and build it up. And that's been just over a period of a few months.
Yeah. So that was last year. Let's see, it was January, February, March. Yeah, it was March of last year. March of last year, I had my surgery, and then pretty much all through summer, I couldn't do much of anything. And then it was October. I started trading again, I think. Let's see, August, September, October, somewhere in there. And so since then, I've increased my account by what it is.
That's excellent.
I'm one of those people, I'm not going to fail, right? It's not an option. So I'll work at something until I get it, or I'll die trying. It's just, I refuse to fail. So, we lost the money. Now we're getting it back. And my wife will be happy when I can say, hey, I've got that money back in the account now. So, but I suspect it'll take me till the end of the year before I get there.
That's inspiring to me that you've been through all this stuff. You've been through all kinds of challenges and stuff, and still maintaining a positive attitude about life and stuff.
Yeah, well, I think the difference is when I was in the Army, I woke up in a hospital. I was unconscious for about 10 days. And you kind of have a different look on life when you wake up and you've been unconscious for nearly 2 weeks. And
oh my God.
Then you realize how close you were to dying. And then it was an uphill battle. I had to learn a lot of stuff over again. So I look at that, and, my parents, when I was young, they taught me that, you can do whatever you set your mind to, but you have to be focused and determined. And if you're determined, then there is no mountain too high.
That's interesting. What were your parents like? What field were they in to be able to give you that kind of inspiring
my mom
advice?
Was actually just a telecom worker. She worked at the Bell Company for, 30 years or something until she retired. My dad was a Green Beret in the Army for 22 years. So, we had discipline issues in the house, I would say, but
your dad had that, never give up mentality also.
Right. It's not something you can surrender. Surrender is not a word that's in my vocabulary. So, and that has been a hindrance sometimes as much as it's been helpful.
Oh yeah, some things you got to just move on and say, forget, this is not the thing I should be doing.
Right. And I'm pretty sure my wife thought that after I came to her and said, well, we don't really have $50,000 in the account right now. She says, well, how much do we have? And, you tell her, well, about 12. That's not a good conversation to have with your wife. So, but no, I mean, I would say that's the one thing my parents gave me that resounds the most with me is just that resolution, just to keep pushing at it. And I try and install that in my kids. I want them to know that whatever they want to do, their only limitation is themselves. So
that's excellent.
And I've had a lot of people work for me throughout the years that say, well, I can't do that, or I don't know that I can. And for me, I look at it as a puzzle, right? I mean, I may not find a solution right away, but every nut can be cracked, and all you got to do is sit down with the puzzle long enough, and you'll find a solution. And I really hope trading would go much faster than it did, but in all fairness, I would say right now I'm comfortable trading as long as I don't have to see my negative account, because that's still a psychological factor for me. When you see that negative hundreds of dollars and you're going, oh no, I had to push the X button on that on the bottom of my trading screen so I don't see that, because it drives me crazy. From my parents that they kind of reinforced in the Army is each day is a new day, learn something new today, right? So I listen to a lot of audiobooks, and you pointed me in the direction of this GAN thing, and it's fascinating. I love it. In fact, you know what? I don't have the GAN book at work with me, but the one that I have is this one, and you recommended this one a few years ago. Technical Analyst
and McGee, yeah.
Classic. And I've read that a couple times. So
for the whole thing, like a manual from beginning to end.
Yeah. And you know what? It is boring. And I'm telling you what, if you read this book, you better be doing it in bed, because it's going to put you to sleep. But,
oh, man.
But the point is that it's a lot of information that can help. And you just have to figure out how to process it. I think there's something to each one of the peoples that teach some of this stuff. But I think if you're trying to bring too much stuff together, you're going to confuse yourself.
Yeah, it can slow you down and stop you from what you're already able to do. You're already able to do something that seems to be, in the top kind of results in the world, just to be able to get increase of account every month consistently. Right. A lot of people in the industry don't even believe that it's possible to have consistent increase. The guy told me this recently. He said, no, it's not possible to have it every month, an increase.
I should show him my account, huh? Well, and it's funny too, because the more I learn, the more my account grows. I get these emails that are like, we're looking for Forex traders, trade our money or whatever. And when you look into it, they pay so little money to trade their currency. Really, you're working for someone for nothing.
Yeah.
And if you're not trading daily with a lot of those people, you're going to lose money, because so one of them I looked into, they start you off with, I think, $10,000. Once you prove you can trade. So they start you off with $10,000. Well, then you're buying, 0.1 lots, right? I mean, you can't buy a full lot with 10 grand. So you're buying 0.1 so that you can stay in that margin level, and you're moving up. So you're making a few dollars per trade, and then they're taking their percentage of it. So then you're ending up with maybe $1 or $2 instead of $100. And it's like, so why would I use your money when I've got my own money? And, I don't think I can manage 2 accounts at one. I'm having a hard enough time with mine.
Yeah.
So
well, I don't know. Have you ever looked into getting your CTA license?
No, just because I'm at the point where, I'm 45 and I don't want to keep working forever. So I really enjoy construction. I've enjoyed this my whole life. I don't enjoy it when I got to do heavy lifting and my back hurts. But that's why I'm the foreman or the superintendent. I don't have to do that kind of stuff. So more what I'm looking at is within the next year, being able to find someone to fill my spot here. And then, if my back's done, I'm going to go back to Hawaii, go back home. And if it's not done, then get my back finished, whatever it takes. We came to Texas because the medical centers were really good. And so far, I've seen the medical centers everywhere in Houston and Dallas and Austin. And I just want someone to get it done so I can get out of here, because I really don't like Texas either. So.
Well, you've been there for a couple of years already, huh?
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, it's a fine state. It's just, we looked at buying a house here, and the property taxes are ridiculous here. We got spoiled in Hawaii. Our tax rate in Hawaii was minuscule. We paid like $500 a year for our house taxes. So, when I look at a house here and they tell me, well, it's $6,000 a year in taxes, I'm thinking, what the hell is that? Who would pay this kind of money for taxes?
Well, when you did your most recent starting over with $500, that was like, how long ago now?
The 9th and the 11th, and it was a couple weeks before that of October. So I'd say the first part of October. It might have been the end part of September.
2018 in October?
Yeah.
That's really recent.
So it's like 6 months, right? Something like that. Yeah, about 6 months.
So that's like, so it goes to 1,000. That's 100% increase, and then you did that again.
Right, but
7 more times. But anyway, it's just outstanding that you're doing so well, and you can see that now your future is kind of laid out where you have options. You can just keep trading, and you're right. It's like in another 6 months, year, things are really going to be opened up. The options, what you can do with your account.
Yeah, I remember. Was it last year or year before last? There was a lady logged on to the classes, and she was like, I don't remember. She had an accent, so she was like from Yugoslavia or something. I can't remember. And she told you, she says, "Oh, I have to make this work. I have to make it work. I have to make money so I can live." And you tried to explain to her, this is not something you're going to just learn today. And she's like, "Nope. I've got it down. I'll be great." And she was in the class for like, I think it was 30 days, might have been 60. And then she left, right?
Is that the one that was like an opera singer?
Is that what she did?
There was one who was a professional opera singer, and it's sad because I wish I could help them, but they have this idea. I'm going to make my living from trading Forex starting right now, and they don't know how yet. So
Right. Well, and I remember her because she had an unrealistic goal, I feel. And no matter how much you try and tell her it's unrealistic, she wouldn't see that. And so, And so
I don't like to discourage people either and say, no, you can't do that. That's because I don't want to be the one to say, no, you can't do that. But on the other hand, you need to be realistic.
Right. I mean, look, if I'm swimming, if my boat just sunk and you throw me a life raft, or a life preserver, excuse me, and I go, no, I'm waiting for whatever, or I'm going to swim over here. I can't blame you when I drowned, and unfortunately that's what happens with a lot of these programs. And that's why I'm quick to say that ever learned, every program I've ever taken, I'm not going to say it's the program that was wrong. I'm going to say that every person has a different way of learning. Now, the program is wrong if they tell you that you can make a lot of money today with no experience. Then they're wrong. But if they're upfront and honest and say it's going to take time to learn, but you can get there and you can make money, then you're onto something.
And some of your previous education programs did imply that you could do that right now and just start with a little bit of money and start making money right now. Well, a lot of them do that.
Yeah, yeah. MTI was the first place that I ever went to, and their course cost me $5,000 or $6,000, I think. And so when I sat down and started studying what you were teaching, excuse me, it made sense to me that the market would move in waves, and because that's the typical tendencies of people, right? People want to jump on the bandwagon and then, oh, quick, let's get off. Know when to get off, or getting off at the end of like a wave 3, for instance. And the people who don't know to get off, they're the ones that are losing at the end of a wave 5.
Yeah. But yeah, what I try to show people is to just discover what's true about the market for yourself. It's not a theory, or it's not somebody's strategy. It's just, can you look at the market and read it yourself and know what it's doing, and then develop the skill where you can look and say, this is where I should get in because it's doing this thing again.
Right. Like this morning, we looked at the pound pairs, and, the pound had already started its move several hours ago, actually, which was kind of odd. But, in learning, you learn, hey, it's already started its move. There's no reason for us to get into it and lose money. And that's something that, you teach everybody in the class. And once you're there a while, you start to pick up on it. And really, I think the biggest part is recognizing when things are supposed to correct, right? Because if you can, for instance, if I can look at a daily time frame and see the pair is coming to an end sometime soon, then I can keep an eye on that pair. But if I'm like every other idiot out there and I go, well, it's going down, so let me just sell this real quick, you're probably going to end up not so good. And there are warning signs, right? So we recognize there are warnings it's going to end and start moving. And some people look at the candles, right? I took a course on candlesticks, and I recognized that into that. But I personally can't learn 400 candles. I can't do it. My brain is definitely not that big. So.
Is that Steve Nissen stuff?
It's Jared something. I forget his last name now.
Well, plus I've always thought that it was like trying to describe a piece of literature by going through and looking at one letter. There's a letter there, there's a letter there, instead of the whole thing together, which you can read much better than just individual candles.
Yeah, that's right. That's pretty accurate, actually. And then the market is like, you describe it as fruit, right, or vegetables growing. As a zucchini's growing on the vine, it's starting to stretch out, it's growing. Well, when do you know when to cut that zucchini off? Well, you know when to cut it off because you've seen it, right? You've seen it before. And so when it gets to a certain size, you go, okay, it's big enough. I can cut this off and I can take it in and make a salad with it. Zucchini grew before. Go, wow, what is that? It's toxic. Is it something I can eat? And so you're putting what you have a fine point on that and saying, this is when it's ready to get in. And as long as someone's willing to dedicate a little bit of time and sit and look at the different patterns, it does work.
You're starting to get really good at it, I guess, because with your account increasing every month, and you can tell when there's an entry, you can make decisions about when you're going to get out. Seems to be working out pretty well. And most of that time recently, now that you're in the U.S., you were recovering from surgery, you're not able to get up in the middle of the night every night.
No. In fact, I got up this morning. I was actually hoping for a pound trade this morning, and thought, well, if I have to get up at 2:00, I hope it's worth my while. Well, it wasn't worth my while, but I get to talk to you, so I guess it's worth my while in that.
Yeah.
But actually, what I've started doing is looking at the patterns before I go to bed. So if there's news coming out or whatever, I'll look at the patterns. And if it looks like something I want to get into and I'm really sure about it, I'll get in it and I'll set a really high stop loss. If it's something
get in
that
early.
Yeah.
You know it's going to turn later, but you can't stay up and deal with it.
Right. I need a couple hours of sleep a day. And then the other thing is that I look at it and say, okay, well, I think it's going to move. Well, if I think it's going to move, then what I would do is put an entry, and a stop loss assigned to that. So that if it does go in the direction I think it's going to, then it would get me in the trade.
That sounds like that would work. So then you get up, like you look at the New York session time, or are you even able to do that every day?
Oh, yeah. Well, most days I do. I'm usually, it's 5 o'clock here now. By now I'm usually here and at work in my office. And by now I'm usually looking at the market, trying to kind of plan out what's going to go on for the day. So
every day you're normally going to get up early anyway, but not that early.
Right. Yeah. My day typically starts about 3:30, 4 o'clock. Then I get up and get dressed and dive into work and get in here and turn the computer on and see where all my trades are at and what the charts are doing and look to see if there's going to be news in the New York session. And in all fairness, the dollar has probably been my biggest winner lately, because the dollar index has been very, very clear lately. I mean, it made a great 5-wave down pattern, and then it made a turn at the end of the wave 5. It was really good. And
yeah.
I'm waiting for the euro now because I've already entered the trade. I'm just waiting for it to start moving now.
Yeah, wasn't that like at the first of the year too?
Yeah. So and it's nice when you can recognize, okay, so I obviously didn't catch the wave 1 down. I don't think anybody's going to catch the wave 1. But when it started correcting going down, I recognized that, hey, this has got to be pretty close to that time frame. And so for the wave 3, I got in at the euro dollar, and I just sat on it. I put my stop loss on. I don't see if it's positive or negative until I go in there and close the trade out. And by the time I traded the closeout, I was very happy with the trade.
Yeah. Yeah, sounds like it, because from October to now, it's like you were saying, around 6 months. And that's a huge increase. And if this keeps up, man, it's going to be excellent.
The thing is when you have a small account and you're first trading, you're looking at wins of $30, $40, $50, and it's not very much. But if I've got 2 or 3 trades open at a time, it's not $50, it's $150. And then the next day comes, and the next day, and the next day. And, I used to have a real hard time sleeping if I had open trades, because my anxiety level would just go crazy. But, I've gotten to the point where I trust the trade. You get to a point where you recognize, okay, look, it's either a wave 5 or it's not. And if it's not, then I'm going to lose some money. And if it is a wave 5, I'm going to get some money. Or a wave 3, and you just go with it.
There is a level where you have to let go of unnecessary overthinking and anxiety.
Right. So, but yeah, no, I you know what, it's been good. And you know what, in all fairness, the end of the year was really good. There was a lot of movement at the end of this last year on the Forex. So, that, I mean, so my account was about $1,700 or something. And that was near the first of the month. And then when I got my thing from Gain Capital, the beginning of the next month, they send one out every 30 days, right? And so instead of being 3,700, it was like 4,100 or 4,200. So, I've had really good months, but that's because the market was moving too. Because if the market doesn't move, then you're just not going to make any money.
Yeah, but we have had some pretty nice patterns and a lot of excellent. It's just like on a roll over and over and over. Here's one. Okay, now here's this one. It's been fun, man. It's enjoyable.
I really wish we could trade the dollar index here in the U.S. If we could trade the dollar index, I'd be very happy because it's very clear.
Well, you can use it. It's so nice that you can use it for all of your decisions about other dollar pairs. It's so, yeah, it is so nice. In fact, the non-weighted index is really excellent a lot of times. And funny, I have that through, the data is through FXCM UK. And
okay.
I don't trade with
Trading View. No, but you use it to watch the dollar though, like we do. Yeah.
It's been really interesting that I used to never even look at it, and now it's just essential. I have to look at it.
Yeah, I remember when I first started, we really didn't use it very much, and now we're using it a lot. And you know what? I've seen. While we've been, in the 4 years that I've been here, I've recognized some growth in you too, right? So before, my first year here, we'd look at some, you go, well, I don't know, maybe, yeah, maybe no. And now it seems like you're more definitive you're like, no, I don't think so. You see, this is the pattern it's going to make. If it looks like this, then right? So
yeah,
I've watched a little bit of growth in you too.
Second voice inside your head. And I did some personal development, and one day I just realized when I'm in the right state and I come in and look at the charts, it's just clear. But then if you second guess it and you go, well, it could do this or whatever. And I just stopped doing that a lot. A lot of times on the days of news, those are some of the best, like our recent non-farm payrolls and FOMC and stuff.
Right.
And many times I just said, okay, this is what it's going to do. Forget it. This is all. There's no other option. I'm getting in. If it doesn't do it, that's fine.
Right. Well, and then, I know you go over it every month or two. You've got the 5 rules to a trade, the pattern, time of day, news, that kind of stuff. I've got them written down somewhere. I don't remember all of them. But that's very helpful for someone who's just learning, who's just starting. Because when you're starting and you're kind of wondering, is this where I should get in or shouldn't I? If you recognize, does it look like a wave structure, a correction structure? Is it the right time of day? Is there news? If you start going down the checklist, you can very easily realize, this probably isn't a very good trade for me because it's not 9 o'clock in the morning or there isn't news. And so that's been helpful for me in the beginning as well.
There are so many things that we just learn through doing it, through experience. And, back in the beginning, I must have just been lost half the time because all you do is look at the chart and see if something is moving and try to decide if that's an entry or not, but you're not really tuned in.
Right.
The economics and the time. And the more you trade over a longer period of time, the more you really refine it.
Right.
Next thing is to add that GAN stuff in there, and then you'll really...
Right. Yeah, figure that out.
But I'm just glad to see that you have really mastered this and picked it up and put in the time that was necessary. 4 years, that's a lot of time. And even before that, you had to pay your due.
Yeah, there's definitely a time factor. You're not going to learn it overnight. And, in all fairness, I probably hit Forex 7 or 8 years. I've been with you about 4 years. And the first 4 years was lost time because, I didn't find the right way to do it. And looking back, I wouldn't go back and change it because it taught me what not to do. But if I had it to do over again, I would probably start looking more into what you teach before I did, because I just feel like I wasted 4 years of my life and, a lot of money doing something that didn't work.
I guess, it's kind of that way with everything, but I've just learned more and more, if we just try to have a feeling of gratitude and appreciation, that there's a reason for everything. And so sometimes we have to experience pain just to get us motivated.
Each thing that happens in our life helps build us as a character, right? Helps refine us. And there's a lot of things that I look back on and I probably wouldn't do it again. But in thinking about it, if I did do it, I wouldn't be where I am today. For some things, that'd be great because I wouldn't need surgery on my back if I would have just jumped out of the way, just being a little facetious there. But I think for the most part, everything's been a growth. And when it comes to trading, I've gotten the best growth out of the last 4 years of studying what you teach.
When your account and now makes the next leap and you start to get it over 100,000 and then go from there, things are really going to be opening up, and you can decide what you want to do with your time and might make some interesting decisions about what to do.
Yeah, there's a whole psychology aspect to trading. I remember the first trade I ever made. The first trade I ever made was on TradeStation platform. I think it was with Market Traders Institute, MTI. And I drew the Fibonacci, and then I entered the trade. And I was so scared, I was shaking, and it started going negative. I was watching the 1 minute chart, and after I got 2 negative 1 minutes, I closed it out going, I'm losing. So there is definitely a psychological aspect to trading.
Oh, yeah. Just think how much you've already grown since then.
Right.
Now you're able to go to sleep at night with trades running.
Right. Exactly. The thing is like I say, everything's a puzzle and you have to figure the solution out, right? For me, psychologically, I can't see the negative $100 or negative $1,000. I can't see that because it wreaks havoc on my mind. So I have to close that window out. And when I'm ready to close the trade and I'm looking at the charts, then I open the window back up. I can't deal with seeing it negative.
That was actually something I recommended
you did actually,
beginning for people, because I just don't like to look at it myself either. It's distracting sometimes.
Right.
Oh my God. And
oh my gosh, I'm $10,000 in the hole. Oh! It's like, well, if you're $10,000 in the hole and you're trying to get $100,000 out of the trade, I think you can stand to be negative 10 grand for a little while.
Yeah, just relax, chill. You'll come back.
But the thing is you're trying to learn something that essentially 98% of the general public looks at it and thinks it's a scam and is reluctant to try and learn it. That's really what trading is, right? The last statistic I saw said 98% of people who start trading will lose their money that they initially put in the account, close their account, and by the end of 2 years, and say it's a scam. And so I think the 2 hurdles you got to get past, first of all, is number one, recognizing the trades like what you teach, and number 2, putting the time in it takes to learn it. Because we're in a 4-dimensional universe, right? There's width, height, and depth, but there's also time. And just like everything else, if I tell you, meet me at 2:30, and I don't tell you where, then we're missing something. And it's the same thing with the trade. If I know something's going to happen, then I have to know about what time it's going to be at. And if you don't know what time it is, then you don't know there's going to be a trade or not.
And doesn't that also just come up the same in trading when, when you're looking now, you go, okay, that's an entry. I don't need anybody else's opinion. I don't care what anybody else thinks. I think is an entry, so I'm going to get in.
Right. Exactly. And you know what? The group is great because everybody has their different way of looking at things. So when we're on and you look at it one way and Damon looks at it another way and I see it a different way, it's nice to have that collaboration where we all come together and we can agree that the trade's going to happen or it's not going to happen. But the way we see how we're doing that, getting from A to B, it's different. And so it's nice to see different people's perspective.
Yeah, it really is. And even our own view can change from day to day, depending on the state that we're in at that time. And sometimes it's good to listen to someone else because they might be in a different state. If you come in like you're stressed out, and
Right.
it seems like today if I come in and I'm like just a little stressed or nervous, it took like a certain amount of time to kind of get into the right state, and have to go through the pairs like 1 or 2 times, and I start to get
Right.
into rhythm.
Right. And there it is, the psychology of trading, right? You either recognize that, it's all a game, and it's all a learning experience, right? My opinion on anything is my opinion right now. Doesn't mean it won't change in an hour or tomorrow or next year. But the opinions I have are based off of the knowledge that I've got. And in trading, for instance, I have my opinion because what I've seen, what I've recognized, and what I've been taught. And so the way I get from A to B is going to be different than the way you get from A to B. But it's going to be some kind of convergence that's going to come together, and we're going to recognize what it is. And like I say, my opinion today, it doesn't mean it's going to be tomorrow. There may be something that you have to say or someone else has to say that will change my opinion.
Yeah, I like to stay open. I sometimes discover things. And one thing I found, I've been through years of my life where I thought that I knew everything, and I had gotten into almost an arrogant state, and then later realized, man, I was completely ignorant, and I made an ass out of myself the whole time. And now I discovered new things that changed everything I thought before.
Right.
So it's just good to keep an open mind.
Yeah. And that's just it. As long as you're teachable, you can learn this. It's the people that are unrealistic that they're just never going to learn this. But, out of the years I've been in the group, I can honestly say I've only seen a couple people come into the group that I felt were unrealistic. And other than that, it seems like most of the people that come in are sincere and wanting to learn how to trade.